Thank you, everybody. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Buloke Shire meeting of the 29th of June, an extra meeting for the year to adopt our budget. Welcome, everyone, especially those who are joining us online. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and those who may be with us today or may be joining us online. Thank you, councillors, and thank you, councillors that are on screen. Turning to our councillors on screen, given that we are in a hybrid meeting, I just need to check that councillors, that you can see us and hear us, and that we can see and hear you. So, Councillor Stewart, can you hear us and see us?
Yes, I can hear and see everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Pollard, can you see us and hear us?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can see and hear you, but I'd like to apologise for the community because I'm not very well dressed for as a community leader for a public meeting.
Your apology is noted, and I think basically everyone knows what the situation is. It's, you've come straight from work. That's what a councillor does, basically. Like community, so thank you for that, Councillor Pollard. Do we have any apologies for tonight's meeting?
No apologies, but noting that Councillor Viz is currently on a leave basis.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. We have minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of June 2020. Do I have someone to remove those as a true record of the meeting on the 8th of June, councillors? Councillor Getley, councillor, could you hold your hand up and just say that we're quite clear and we can see it? Thank you, Councillor Getley. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Simpson to second that. Is there any opposition? Everyone comfortable with those? Thank you, councillors. They carry. Requests for leave of absence. Do I have any requests for leave of absence, councillors? No, thank you. Point 5, declaration of pecuniary conflicts of interest. In accordance with section 132 of the Local Government Act 2020, councillors who have a conflict of interest in respect of the matter being considered at this meeting must A, disclose the conflict of interest in the manner required by Council's Governance Rules 2020 and A, that should be these, exclude themselves from the decision-making process in relation to that matter, including any discussion or vote on the matter at any council meeting or delegated committee and any action in relation to the matter. Councillors, do I have any declarations of the pecuniary conflicts of interest at this stage?
Not at this stage, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. That's noted. Point 6, questions from the public. I have been advised of no questions from the public. Point 7, procedural items. I do not have any procedural items presented to me for the meeting tonight. Point 8, general business. 8.1, policy reports. Data and management policy. I'll take this is from the finance manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Presented tonight is the data management policy for Council's consideration for adoption. The policy has been prepared to address Council's lack of policy direction in this area. An internal audit was conducted by RSD in 2021, and from that we were able to develop a policy model which was based on RSD's recommendations of best practice across the local government authorities. This policy was presented to the Audit and Risk Committee on the 2nd of February 2022. The policy establishes the Council's approach to debt management in respect to rates and other debtors for officers. The process documented in the debtors management policy provides Council's assurance that debt collection at Buloke explores all efforts to settle debts outstanding to avoid any further legal action. So, recommendation for Council to adopt this policy.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions about this particular policy? No, nothing. No. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, we do have a recommendation to consider. The council adopts the debtor management policy and two, places the policy on council's website and informs the community about the policy. Do I have someone to move that recommendation, please, councillors?
Do that, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor get me to move that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Simpson, a second. Any opposition, councillors? I'll put that to the vote. No opposition, so that'll be carried. Thank you, councillors. 8.2 management reports. The draft customer experience strategy. Director of Community Development.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, councillors tonight we're bringing the draft customer experience strategy. Council first adopted a customer service strategy back in 2018 to set out the organisation's commitment to customer service excellence, both internal and external. It was designed to provide a clear way forward in meeting the service needs of our customer now and into the future. Since that time, the adoption of the Local Government Act 2020 has influenced the steps council will take to achieve strong organisational approaches when engaging with customers and stakeholders, encouraging that public participation in the democratic process. This included the development of the community engagement policy last year and subsequent council plans, which articulate the values of engagement and participatory practice. The customer experience strategy sets out clear guidelines how the organisation will commit to both internal and external continuous improvement for the range of services that council provides. It comes to council for endorsement or consultation with council's customers, given the importance of the document.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgibbon. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question on the support that goes with this via, say, computer programs and things. Mr. Fitzgibbon, is there, are we up to date with programs that might support things that the front desk team might need to call on from time to time to make sure that we are answering all questions adequately?
So we will invest in some customer relationship management software as part of our ICT strategy that will bring that level of customer experience up to standard. There are other parts of our organisation that are well supported by applications that are in place, but that is one of the things that doesn't address. But council has a number of almost stopgap solutions, I guess, for one that council in place to make that transition smoother. It's something we are addressing, noting that has been a gap in our service.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgibbon. Yep, happy with that. Thank you.
Councillor Gedley.
Mr. Fitzgibbon, just a question on the information that's gathered and further change if change is needed. How regularly will you review the information that comes in, and how, if we need to change, how quickly can we move forward and adopt a change or make a change to make this policy really good for our customers?
This could be a living document, and our proposal would be to bring it back at the end of each calendar year to report to council on the progress of the strategy.
Thank you.
Councillors, any other questions?
Just a comment, if I may, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Fitzgibbon, I commend you and your department on this. This is probably the one area where councillors get questioned about more than anything. I do encourage our customers to get across this document, use the document, and encourage the staff to really get behind this one and make our life easy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors on the big screen, any questions? Thank you. Councillors, we do have a recommendation that council adopt the draft customer experience strategy 2022 and 2025 for further consultation with council's customers. Can I have someone to move that recommendation, councillors? Councillor Milne.
Yeah, happy to move that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gibbon is seconder. Any opposition, councillor? No, I'll put that to the vote. That's carried. Thank you. I just a comment. I like the term experience. It takes me back to my youth. There's a band that I particularly like, which is the Jimi Hendrix Experience. I'm just wondering if we now have the Travis Experience. But anyway, we haven't got more here.
Thank you. No, I can't play guitar left-handed or right-handed.
Well, you don't know. He's played with his teeth. 8.2.2, adoption of the asset plan. Manage your assets, works and technical services. This is you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. The Act requires the Council to develop, adopt and keep in force an asset plan which outlines key information guiding our asset planning and management within the Council over a minimum of a 10-year period. We presented the draft plan to the Community Summit in May, seeking initial feedback and a further report made to the Council at the June Council meeting. We had released it for community comment. All feedback provided by the community has been incorporated into the final plan, which is presented this evening to the Council recommending adoption.
It's you, councillors. Any questions? We're all silent. That's always a good start. So, councillors, we do have a recommendation that council adopt the asset. We have someone to move that recommendation, please. Councillor Gibbon to move it. Councillor Stewart to second that. Councillors, any opposition? Councillors, that's carried. Thank you, staff, for putting that together. Assets, as we've learned at the MOB conference, are a huge burden on councils. And I mean, I think if I look at the latest reports about the stock market, we're very worried about the assets of the stock market at the moment. So we're in good company. Come to the highlight of the eve involves the federal treasurer, the Speaker of the House. 8.2.3, the adoption of the annual budget 2022-23 financial year. The Minister of Finance will rise to her feet and give the report. Well, a little bit of, hint. Well, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight's presented the 2022-23 council budget for council's consideration for adoption. Council's 2022-23 budget has been prepared over a period commencing December 2021, including with submissions following community engagement process. Preparation of the budget for the 2022-23 year included council briefings and workshops with officers and was presented at the Community Summit on the 24th of May. Since the draft budget was endorsed by council for public exhibition, the budget presented tonight has been updated for confirmed developments that have occurred since the preparation of the draft in April, which are listed in the recommendation for council's consideration. These include updates to capital projects which have been delayed due to wet weather. So our recommendation is listed for council's consideration.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions, please?
Comments, mate?
Councillor Milne, comment away.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess budget's always very important and a lot of work goes into it. And I guess as we've proved over time, we can never get everything that we want in a budget in any one year. But I guess the major things that stand out as been discussed at some other meetings and community meetings is the amount of money on roads that's going out again, which is one of our biggest cost. And I guess it'd be nice if we could cover that off in a couple of years and get it up to scratch. But it's an increased budget from many years ago, and it's and we're still finding ourselves behind the 8 ball. But there's a lot of initiatives in the budget. There's a lot of things that probably we're only doing part of because of the funding arrangements that we'd like to do more of. But it's a great opportunity for the Shire to go to the community and show that we've thought about it. We've put some work into it. While it won't please everybody, I guess we hope that majority of the people can see where we're going. And I guess the consultations we've had over the period for the community and for the councillors with the information that we've been provided up to the leading up to this has been good, and I just hope that we can get through the budget without too many hassles, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Milne. Councillor Getwee.
Just a comment and support. Thank you, Eileen. Councillor Milne said, the briefings and discussions that we've had have been excellent, giving us a clear understanding of what we've got, what we haven't got, and where we're going. So you and your team have done an excellent job, and I just endorse Councillor Milne's comments.
Councillor. Any other comments or questions at this stage, councillors? Councillor Stewart.
Given that I had technical issues for the last briefing, can somebody please enlighten me as to where the $200,000 equity reserve is being pulled from, given that we didn't have it in the original budget? So I'd just like to have an understanding of what has had to be foregone in order to provide that reserve.
Thank you. Eileen, I think you can clarify that from the surplus.
Yes, so with the reserve, it's an allocation of our previous accumulated surplus. So the allocation has totally sort of happened within the equity reporting area.
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
So with the, that's right. So with the creation of the reserve, it's actually coming out of the accumulated surplus. So it hasn't actually impacted the current budget, and it's the creation of it has been reported in the equity area.
Okay, so the previous years where we have shown that we actually are going backwards and weren't covering our expenses has been rectified, is that correct?
Well,
to enable us to have a surplus this time?
Well, we have built up an accumulated surplus, and then it's just basically identifying part of that surplus to be set aside for this purpose.
Yep, so that surplus obviously came from underspends that we hadn't, that we had budgeted for and did not arise, is that correct?
Potentially over a series of years, but yes, we certainly have got an accumulated surplus as at the start of the financial year where it's being sourced from.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Stewart. Any other questions, councillors? No, well, councillors.
Councillor Pollard had a hand up.
Councillor Pollard, sorry.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I tried a couple of times to put the hand up before with the computer, but it didn't work, or you missed it.
Okay.
I'd just like to comment on the budget. I think it's a great budget, as with Councillor Milne says, that there's a lot of things that we'd like to put in we can't afford to put in, and that's aware of that. The only disappointing part to me is that commercial and industrial ratepayers aren't going to support the rest of the ratepayers in the increase of the rate cap, because they're actually going to start with a rate decrease. And to me, that's the only disappointing, that not everyone's wearing the rate cap. But I'm not going to go against it, because we need a budget to start the capital works for the current year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pollard. Any other discussion, councillors? Okay, councillor, we do have a recommendation, and I'll read the recommendation. Please. Recommendation that council, having complied with its obligations under the Local Government Act 2021, adopts the proposed annual budget for 2022-23 document, including to the following amendments from draft. Minor update to cents in the dollar calculation following reconciliation to final valuation adopted by the Valuer General. 2. Adjustment between the 2021-22 and 2022-23 financial years made EBA renegotiation time. 3. Recognition of additional landfill rehabilitation provision regarding Sea Lake landfill site in forecast the 2021-22. 4. Additional carry forwards and updates to capital works projects regarding project delays to date due to adverse weather. 5. Inclusion of a $200,000 reserve for grant funding opportunity co-contribution. And 6. Inclusion inclusion of a 200,000 reserve for capital project development in readiness of grant opportunities. 2, provides the following details in relation to the annual budget 2022-23. 1, there are no new borrowings proposed for the 2022-23 financial year. 2, the rate in the dollar for each type of rate to be levied for the period 1 July 2022 to 30 June 2023 is as follows. Rateable for residential properties is set in the dollar of the CIV 0.61787. The rateable commercial properties 0.61787. Rateable industrial properties 0.61787, and rateable farming properties 0.37072. 3, the rate a municipal charge of $170 for each rateable assessment in respect of which a municipal charge may be levied. 4, levy an annual service charge of $422 for curbside garbage and recycling collection for the period 1 July 2022 30 June 2023. 3, levies the general rates and service charges referred to in this resolution by the service notice on each person liable to pay such a rate or charge in accordance with section 158 of the Local Government Act 1989. 4, in accordance with section 167 of the Local Government Act 1989, the rates and charges declared by Council for the 2021-22 financial year must be paid as follows. It's going to stop it there. I think I need to 1, 2, 3. I think that should read 2022-23. Yes. So, and that be by 4 instalments made on or before the following dates. Instalment 1, 30 September 2022. Instalment 2, 30 November 2022. Instalment 3, 28th of February 2023. And instalment 4, 31 May 2023, or by a lump sum payment made on or before February 2023. Authorises the Chief Executive Officer to levy and recover the general rates and annual service charges in accordance with the Local Government Act 1989, and 6, determines those fees and charges for the 2022-23 financial year be adopted.
Can I just ask you to read 4.2, starting by a lump sum?
4 point, sorry.
By a lump sum.
By a lump sum payment made on or before February 2023.
15 February.
15 February. I can't even read what's in front of me. So there's too many 22s. Thank you. Yeah. Councillors, we do have a recommendation. Don't ask them to read it. I'll just turn over and be brave if we get out. So do I have someone to move the recommendation, councillors? Councillor Pollard, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gemley, a second. Any opposition, councillors?
I'd like to move the just hang on, Mr. Mayor, 23 financial year, where it's recorded on section 4, the section for the council for the 21-22, I want that changed to 22-23 financial year.
Yeah. Thank you, councillor. We did that, that's made the point, certainly. So you're still comfortable to move that to Councillor Pollard with that amendment? So we'll note.
With that amendment, yes.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Sorry, Councillor Getty. Yeah. Any opposition, councillors?
No opposition.
Being no opposition, that is carried. Thank you, councillors, and thank you, staff, for your efforts in this area. It has been a little bit different process, but a very worthwhile process. And I think it's worth noting that when we put this out to comment to the community, those comments have been duly noted and incorporated in the budget. So I think, in terms of listening, at least we can say that we do listen, but not so listen, but also do something there. And That's the important bit. Also, as much as you
Yes, and we're here.
That's the act. Thank you, councillors. I believe we'll be providing cigars out the back after, as Joe Rocker used to do. But there you go. Right, got some.
Except there's nobody to smoke them anymore.
No.
8.2, no, the cigars. 8.2.4, the adoption of the financial plan 2022-2023 through to 2031-2032. Manager of Finance. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Presented tonight is the financial plan for council's consideration for adoption. The financial plan was prepared based on the 2022-23 budget and growth forecasting assumptions as listed in the document. Financial plan projects council's results and position over the forward 10 years, period from the 22-23 year through to the 2031-32 year. Get a lot of twos and threes there. The document also reflects in that forecasting council's significant reliance on external funding for financial sustainability. The recommendation tonight to council is adoption of this financial plan.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions, comments? Councillor Mill.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a wonderful thing to have, I guess, these financial plans through for 10 years, but my gosh, it makes you scratch your head and think about what's coming up and what's going to be required going forward. And I guess by having it in place, I mean, it does mean that we've thought about stuff that's going to happen that's going to affect other councils and things going forward, that and that the community can also see and reflect on to help us redo these from time to time, review it from time to time if things change. So they're a very, very valuable document, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Councillor Stewart?
Can I just have some clarification on points 4 and 5? Does that mean we've got two $200,000 reserves?
Yes. Yes, it does. One is for actually funding opportunities that will arise through the financial year. So that we have some co-contribution cash set aside if that's the possibility comes around. The other is in regards to developing capital projects in a new cycle of a new process that's being developed to make sure that we actually have more shovel-ready projects ready for when grant opportunities arise, and we're sort of looking at a full circle plan to develop that and to really engage with the community in that development. So that's sort of to kick off that process, that reserve is being established in that respect.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? No? Councillors, we have a recommendation. The council, having complied with its obligations under the Local Government Act 2020, adopts the financial plan 2022-23 to 2031-32, including to the following amendments from draft. 1. Adjustment between 2021-22 to 22-23 regarding EBA renegotiation timing. 2. Recognition of additional landfill rehabilitation provision regarding Sea Lake landfill site in the forecast of the 2021-22. 3. Additional carry forwards and updates to capital works projects regarding project delays due to adverse weather. 4. Inclusion of a $200,000 reserve for grant funding opportunity co-contribution. And 5. Provision of a $200,000 reserve for capital project development in readiness of grant opportunities. Councillors, do I have someone move that recommendation, please? Councillor, get me to move. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Simpson, thank you. Councillor Simpson. Any opposition, councillors? No. Thank you. That's carried. Thank you, councillors. 8.3 financial reports. We do not have any. 8.4 organisational reports, we do not have any. 8.5, councillors, any reports from councillors this evening? Yes, it's there.
This time, Mr. Mayor.
It's through you, Mr. Mayor, just briefly, there's been a number of things going on, particularly in the tourism sector with Wimmera Valley Tourism and Buloke Tourism both having meetings this week, and both are moving in directions that compel the opportunity for travellers throughout our region and beyond. And also, just like to acknowledge the opportunity that the Mayor gave me to go to the Lions Club meeting in Donald, hand a changeover while in his absence. And it was a great night out, and I was able to reassure the Lions Club that the council and community value the work they do.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Thank you. Any other councillors? Thanks, Gav. Well, councillors, at this stage, we would normally move into matters which would exclude the public in camera. However, I'd suggest that if we could hold that matter over to the end of the meeting, if someone on a recommendation would move standing orders, we will continue with the rest of the meeting so that those that are joining us online can finish the meeting and then move off while we attend to an in-camera matter. So, look, if I can take a recommendation or from the floor to...
Happy to recommend, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor.
Procedural motion.
Do I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Geppi, thank you. No opposition, councillors? Thank you, councillors. I'll basically suspend standing orders and we'll move to the other business. 9.5, 9.1, notices of motion. Do we have any notices of motion? No, Mr. CEO. 9.2, questions from councillors. Councillors, any questions at this stage or questions you require an answer for?
Mr. Mayor.
No, I'll leave it for a briefing. Thank you.
Thank you. No urgent business, Mr. CEO. No urgent business. Any other business, councillors? Nothing there. Thank you, councillors. Well, that technically closes that section of the meeting. So, for those that are online, we'll go into in-camera now. So, if I can have a councillor to move that pursuant to the Local Government Act, the meeting be closed to the public to consider the following reports that are considered to contain confidential information on the grounds provided in section 3.1 of the Local Government Act 2022 as indicated, which is the Charlton Street statement. Do I have someone to move that we close the meeting? Councillor Simpson to move it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Geppi, a second. Thank you. Any opposition?